A Jasper restaurant fire has now resulted in an arrest. We'll have more on that investigation. Plus, the city of Huntingburg continues to plan for Stellar Communities projects, and Nathan Verkamp is the next in our candidates series tonight on Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. The late morning fire at a Jasper fast food restaurant earlier this week turned out to be an arson case, resulting in the arrest of an employee from Knox County on arson and other charges. Just before 11:30 yesterday morning, firefighters with the Jasper Volunteer Fire Department responded to the Rally's restaurant along US 231 near the crossing, where Jasper Fire Chief Kenny Hoaksong says the blaze was discovered by firefighters in a restroom storage cabinet. Firemen were able to knock out the blaze in a matter of minutes. Now, initially, Hoaksong said exactly what started the fire could not be determined, though it was considered to be suspicious. Jasper Police and Du Bois County Sheriff's deputies were then called in to investigate. The subsequent investigation revealed a strong odor of gasoline coming from inside the building. Authorities say an employee, 24-year-old Braxton Cannon of Vincennes, had intentionally started the fire using gasoline and a lighter in the employee restroom. Police say while being patted down, Cannon became physically resistant with officers and was found to have a white powdery substance in a baggie. Later field tests found that the substance was actually methamphetamine. Police also found $80 in cash that Cannon admitted to having taken out of the store register as he was leaving the building after he set the fire. Cannon was taken to the Du Bois County Security Center. He was booked on level 4 felony counts for arson and possession of methamphetamine. He also faces a level 6 felony count of theft and a misdemeanor count of resisting law enforcement. Now, damage to the building was estimated at around $1,500. 32 men with 3 trucks responded to the call. Firefighters were on scene for about 30 minutes. No injuries were reported. Then this morning, a minor fire at Jasper Rubber left some damage and cleanup work. Jasper firefighters were called to this fire just after 6:55 a.m. The fire was at plant number 3. Hoaksong says in this case, firefighters found a malfunction in a motor bearing with the plant's outdoor dust collector. That malfunction caused friction, which set rubber dust ablaze. Little damage was reported other than the failed bearing and filter bags. A steel trash bin used with the system also was involved in the fire. Hoaksong says no injuries were reported and nobody had to be evacuated from the building. The Jasper Fire Department sent 5 trucks and 30 men to this scene. They were there for an hour. City officials in Huntingburg remain optimistic about their Stellar Communities effort. Last night, the Huntingburg City Council heard a full report from the core committee about a recent meeting with state officials. That meeting took place in Indianapolis back on Wednesday. Now, Wednesday's meeting, as you'll recall, involved representatives from the Lieutenant Governor's Office, the Indiana Housing Authority, the Indiana Department of Transportation, and the Office of Community and Rural Affairs. It marked the first meeting between city representatives and state officials since Huntingburg was honored as a Stellar Community. Huntingburg Mayor Denny Spinner says both sides started coordinating state and local funds for Stellar during that meeting. He says the goal now is to match important projects with the funding.
Some of the funding is going to be made available, for example, from Okra early in the process, while some of the funding from NDOT may take a little bit longer to be realized because of the application process. So from that meeting yesterday, what we will be doing now is we'll be taking that information and bringing it back to the full Stellar Committee and sitting down with them and helping us prioritize the projects based on the funding that's available either locally or through the state.
Spinner says the city has some ideas on projects that will be high priority. He says some could be starting very soon.
One project that we are already in an engineering phase for and is planned to occur in 2015 is the 9th Street extension, which extends 9th Street west to connect to Monkhouse Drive. And that project is necessary in the early phases to allow us a detour route when the overpass project is built. And then secondarily, after the overpass is built, it'll open up additional areas for development on the west side of the industrial park.
Construction on all of the Stellar projects is expected to be done by 2018. Now, Spinner says the public will get a chance to weigh in as this process continues. He says public participation helped the city get the stellar designation, and it remains important for them to have that feedback. The city originally received the stellar designation back in August. Huntingburg will be getting $10 million a year in funding over the next 4 years. A pair of recent vandalism incidents have Jasper police again seeking the public's help. The department says 2 vehicles parked along Canterbury Court overnight Wednesday into yesterday morning had windows broken out of them. The Community Strike Force Against Crime is offering a $500 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible. Anyone who has any information is asked to call the Jasper Police Department at 482-2255. You can also call the department's anonymous tip line at 481-COPS. Du Bois County Clerk Bridget Jarboe is once again reminding folks of an upcoming deadline for absentee applications by mail. Jarboe says this upcoming Monday, October 27th, is the final day for those applications to be accepted. The formal deadline is at midnight. Jarboe says applications are the ABS 1, ABS 2, and ABS 15 forms. She says they may be hand-delivered or faxed or mailed to the Du Bois County Clerk's office or to the Indiana Election Division. One other reminder for you, Saturday voting will take place at the courthouse tomorrow. That will go from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Authorities in Daviess County have wrapped up their investigation into human remains found near Washington back in July. The Daviess County Sheriff's Department says back on July 20th, deputies found what appeared to be a partial human skull. They found it along the West Fork of the White River north of the Old Vincennes Road River Bridge. Now, sheriff's deputies initially took the remains to the University of Indianapolis, where they were studied by Dr. Krista Latham. Latham serves as an associate professor of biology and anthropology at the school. Latham then sent a final report to Daviess County Coroner Laura Petty. According to that report, the remains are most likely of an adult male. The report says the remains likely washed out of a historic burial site from somewhere upstream. They then moved through the water for an unknown time and distance, possibly for miles and for years. Authorities say there is not enough evidence to determine the exact time period or culture affiliation of the remains. Officials say the skull most likely predates December 31st of 1939. Because of that, the Division of Historic Preservation and Archaeology of the Indiana Department of Natural Resources is being contacted. The remains will continue to be stored at the University of Indianapolis. Finally this evening, state utility officials have announced new details about the start of mandatory 10-digit dialing here in southwestern Indiana. 10-digit dialing for the 812 area code is now set to begin on February 7th. That date was approved by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission on Wednesday ahead of the introduction of the new 930 area code for this area. The change means callers in the region must now use the area code for every call they make starting on February 7th. Now, the February 7th date was suggested by Alan Matsumoto with the Indiana Telecommunications Association. The February 7th date was chosen since it comes after the holidays. The date also falls on a Saturday when fewer calls are made. Now, the required phone number dialing was scheduled to start back on September 6th, but the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission announced back in August it was being delayed because some groups said they weren't ready for this change. Specifically, an alarm company in Evansville expressed their concerns about being ready in time for the grace period. Now, back in February, the Commission had asked people to start using all 10 digits when dialing 812 area code numbers. The original 6-month grace period for the area code change began on March 1st. Now, state officials have also announced the start of the new 930 area code. That is slated for March 7th. The 930 area code is being implemented because phone numbers in the 812 area code are now running out. The new code will be implemented through an overlay which has been used for all new area codes nationwide since 2008. All right, coming up after the break, your local forecast, sports with Kurt Guxell, and Inform with Nathan Verkamp. That's all up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.